The legendary Kazakh batyr Karakerey Kabanbai is buried 30 kilometers from the city of Nur-Sultan. In 2000, the mausoleum was erected on the highest hill of the cemetery, which became the resting place of the great ancestor of the Kazakh people. Historian, ethnographer, journalist, author of a number of literary works and research works about the past of the Kazakh people, Kamal Abdrakhman not only keeps knowledge about Karakerey Kabanbai batyr, but also tirelessly finds and systematizes more and more new data about the life and heroism of the great military leader and defender of the people.
For
more than 20 years, you have been the keeper of the Karakerey Kabanbai batyr mausoleum. We know that he died here, on the banks of the Nura River. But are there rather little-known historical facts that connect this area and his life path? There is something that we, the researchers, did not attach the importance to. We lost sight of the migration routes of our ancestors' tribes, which began to form back in the time of Genghis Khan and existed in their development until the period of our settlement in the 19th century. I will cite one historical fact. Very few people know that Karakerey Kabanbai batyr not only died, but also was born in this area. Basically, everyone thinks that since his descendants and relatives live in Almaty, East Kazakhstan region, in Semey, then he was born there. There is an epic called The Marriage of Jibek, which was written by Karybai Tagataruli in 1897. It says that Kabanbai batyr comes from Qazaq, and Qazaq comes from Mambat, and Mambat comes from Jibek. So this epic is about the place where Jibek's marriage took place. There are following lines. Jailao of Ostavляйте is located on Yesil and Nura. Matchmaking is a legacy left over from ancestors. This is about the very time when Jibek lived on the Nura. But the question is, who was the girl he married? She descended from the Naimans, and among the Naimans there are Matai, from them Kaptagai descend. Jibek married a girl named Bolan. Her father's name was Bagbegan. He was from the Kaptagai tribe. Then we learned that Matai also inhabited this area. See? We often simply do not know about such facts. Let me tell you even more. For example, the toponymy of this region. At least half of the names of geographical points that have survived to this day, whether they are rivers, lakes, or some other landscape zones, are somehow connected with the relatives of Kabanbai batyr. These are Shakaman, Shunat, Aganas, Dauletbai, Kaliton, Espembat, Yesengildi, Janteke, Baikobek, Jankobek, Erkobek, Jambike, Kolde, Jumai, Japak. I name only those places that I could remember now. Many do not know even about this. Or here's another example. What is the etymology of the Akmola toponym? Very few people know this either. For example, in 1851, the Omsk Collegiate Secretary Yefimtsev wrote, Akmolinsk, when founded in 1832, was named after a white monument over the grave, located above the burial place 25 miles from the city, on a hill lying along the Nura River. In fact, there are quite a few facts that we simply don't know. Even deeper immersion into the history of Akmola will open for us a lot of interesting and unexplored things. Today we should be grateful to independence. If we did not have these 30 years of independence, we simply would not know and would not be able to explore all this. But there is also a significant drawback in this work. Yes, independence has opened all the doors for us, but now historians are conducting their own research, literary scholars are studying their direction, toponymists are again doing their own separate work. They all work apart. You have written a book about Kabanbai batyr. What is its value?
жалпы Каракерей Кабанбай батырдың заманы.
The fact is that historical information about the times of Karakerey Kabanbai's life has come down to our days thanks to oral folklore. For a long time, the facts about him have traveled by word of mouth from one person to another. Later, they were recorded in written sources. There are quite a few of them. There are 18 epics about Kabanbai batyr in the Institute of Literature and Art named after Mukhtar Awazov at the Academy of Sciences of Kazakhstan. In 1979, the Academy of Sciences published the book Problems of Kazakh Historical Epics. At that time, not everyone was allowed to publish books. So in this book, it was said that the grave of Karakerey Kabanbai batyr is located on the territory of the Oktyabr State Farm, 30 kilometers from Akmola. The mausoleum is located in this very place now. Thus, we began to study the sources that recorded oral literature and found new historical facts. That is why we must unite these directions. There are a lot of materials about Kabanbai batyr, but all the researchers who study them each went their own way. My merit is that I have collected and systematized all the works of literary critics, historians and chroniclers. I didn't discover anything. Of course, I went to Omsk in China, where of course I collected historical data. In my opinion, the value of my book is that it is a synthesis of oral literature, chronicles and history. At the same time, I think that we should somewhat edit the biographies of the Khans, batyrs and beys in the chronicles, epics and novels. We see that somewhere they have been mythologized or over-embellished. We must show the true historical personality of each of them. Have you separated historical facts from myths in this book? I showed their points of contact with myths. What is true and what is myth? For example, they said that at the age of 16, Karakerey Kabanbai batyr went to the Karakerey tribe, his maternal relatives, and then the people of one batyr named Dauletbai returned him back. There is a belief that after 2-3 years, Kabanbai returned to his father's house as a married man. And look, Dauletbai batyr was 12-13 years younger than Karakerey Kabanbai batyr, but a child at the age of 6 could not take him and bring him back. See, this is just one example. There are many such examples. For literary scholars, fact-checking is not important. We do not take into account one more fact: the place where the mausoleum of Karakerey Kabanbai batyr is located. Here is what Bukajirao said about this. Yesterday at noon I heard that Kabanbai was ill, and already the next day he arrived to him. At that time Bukajirao lived in the village, which is now called Osakarovka. This is according to Akseleo Seydimbek. Akseleo is a very knowledgeable person. He should be trusted. And here is what Sarishuash Jirao said. Bad news came to the Albans. They sent a messenger to the Uysuns, gathered the best of the Dulats. They kept their way to the Arka to say goodbye. It turns out that the news that Karakerey Kabanbai is very ill and is dying has spread to all 4 sides of the Kazakh steppe, and everyone came to see him off onto his last journey. The place where today the mausoleum of Karakerey Kabanbai batyr is located may be the last place where the best of Kazakhs and the most noble people of that time gathered, who after that, each in their own time, one by one, also left this world. The first of the most important tasks of this book is to show that there are differences between historical facts and facts taken from folklore, epics and chronicles. Second, to show what points of contact they have. Our people have a great memory. They perfectly remember everything. But the epic about Kabanbai batyr itself, after all, did not appear on the day of his death. It appeared much later, after 10, maybe 50 years. It says that he died on Monday, November the 13th. Here is another important passage from the epic. Have a memorial dinner, slaughter a mare, and bury him on the homeland, Arka, by building a tombstone. That's where all the information is. How then can we say that this is not a historical fact? But if you understand all this, another interesting detail comes to light. The land of the Arka is large, starting from Alakol, ending with Kostanay region, and in the west it stretches to the Jibek River. But what specific place of the Arka we are talking about? We find a mention of this specific place in Kabanbai's mourning by his daughter Nazim. It is worth saying that if fiction, epics, folklore, which cite certain historical facts, usually appear only after tens of years, then they mourn the deceased immediately after his death. So in the mourning of Kabanbai there is a special historical fact. These are the words. I'll tell you about the place where everyone gathered to hold a memorial dinner. Between the Nura and the Asil there is the mouth of the Sari Bell. These lines point us to a specific square.
Біз енді бүгінгі әңгімені сізбен Қабанбай батыр бабамыз жайлы бастадық. Осы тұста
Since today we talk so much particularly about Kabanbai batyr, why don't we continue on the topic of heroism in general? Are such phenomena as batyr and sufficiently investigated in Kazakh history?
Өте бір керемет жақсы сұрақ қойдың. Біздің бақытымызға орай, мына менің қатарымдағылар
You have raised a very good topic. Fortunately for us, my peers and I had the honor of listening to Malik Gabdulin's lectures on oral literature. It was great. Hero of the Soviet Union, academician. He still at that time divided these two concepts, batyr and is a hero. For example, to stick, tagin, sayen. If you read the epics about them, you will not find scenes of military battles there. It's all about peacetime, no war. But they did not allow anyone to offend the people. They protected them. All this is not about the times of the war, or when the people suffered from some kind of violence from the outside. This is about noble deeds in a completely peaceful time. A batyr is already a hero of the battlefield. This is a man of war. So Malik Gabdulin even divided batyrs into two categories. The first is a batyr who fought the enemy one-on-one, an individual warrior who did not reach the level of a regimental commander. And another batyr who, having won special honor and respect, became a military leader. Who are they? These are sardars, leaders who could gather whole armies. For example, Kabanbai batyr, Bogenbai batyr, Tabin Bokenbai batyr are such great commanders. In general, who is a batyr in the understanding of the Kazakhs? Each separate clan, each tribe of the Kazakh people had its own battle cry, with which they went into battle. They all consisted of the names of the batyrs. For example, for Shapirashti, Naurizbai, for Alban, Raimbek, for Kanjigali, Bogenbai, for Naimans, Yegabtagai, for Abakirei, Janibek. See? Who is a batyr? He is the leader of his people. In general, heroism is a quality that is in the blood of Kazakhs. Your colleagues and friends told us a lot about you. Let's listen to them and then move on. Once I went to the public association Kazakh TV and heard someone singing beautifully to the Dombra. It was such a beautiful song. I thought, who might it be, and saw that it was Kamal Abdrakhman. Then I asked, do you have that kind of talent? We knew that you were a good conversationalist, a screenwriter, but I didn't know that you are such a wonderful singer. They say about such people, a multi-talented person. His talent has many facets. If there are people in Kazakhstan who worry about the Kazakh language, then Kamal Abdrakhman is one of them. He was able to contribute to the development of the language. The role of such people in the development of independent Kazakhstan is very huge.
Kamal ағамыздың мынау ғылыми зерттеудегі бір артықшылығы
The advantage that Kamal Abdrakhman possesses when conducting scientific research is that he harmonizes and very skillfully intertwines the historical facts and folklore heritage of the Kazakhs. These are the rarest sources and epics, as well as chronicles. In addition, he himself found some works of oral folklore that were not yet known to the broad masses and introduced them into scientific circle. He described all this in his book. From the point of view of methodology, his approaches to research are an example for historians.
Bir үлгі деп ойлаймын, методологиялық жақтан.
Өткен жылдары осы бағдарламада
In previous issues, we talked with one of the historians, Maksat Alpizbes. He shared his opinion on the Juzes. In his opinion, there is no family, ethnic or genetic meaning in the concept of Jews.
әулеттік, этникалық, рулық мағына жоқ.
Jews is just the name of a space, area. You are also researching this question. Do you have anything to add?
Алып қосарыңыз бар ма?
Кішкене кең айтқан екен. Мен кішкене жинайын.
He expressed apparently more broadly about the concept of Jews. Let me tell you a little in detail. You must first answer the question of the origin of the word Jews. Until the 1700s, there were 3 Bs, and there were no 3 Khans. There was not even a concept of Jews. See? During the reign of Tauke Khan, 3 Bs appeared. If we say 3 Juzes, then we remember Tole B, Jibek B, and Ayteke B. Before that, there were no 3 Bs, respectively, there were no Juzes, and there were no 3 Khans. Now there is information that in the 1720s, Ayteke B passed away, and a new B was not chosen in the junior Jews. Then in the 1750s-60s, Jibek B and Tole B died. Also after them, new Bs were not selected. What are the other 3 Juzes? Where did we get this? Why are we divided into 3 Juzes? There were no family ties in the 3 Juzes structures. There is not even social closeness there. What Maksat Alpizbes says is true. There is a purely territorial division. You cannot be divided and say that you are from one or another Jews. Let's dive deeper. For example, when the Kazakh Khanate was created, what we now call the senior Jews was Mongolistan, right? Today's West, which we call the junior Jews, isn't it the Nogai horde? What junior Jews and senior Jews we are talking about? This is just a temporary rule of 3 territories by Tauke Khan, which began in around 1700. Therefore, now it is impossible to promote Jews' division. This is what separates us from the fact that we are divided into clans, genealogy. Nothing happens, nothing changes. We do not even divide into clans, but on the contrary, we consist of genealogies. And it does not change anything. You are of one tribe, I am of a different tribe, and there are still a bunch of other kinds. But dividing by 3 Juzes is dangerous. In generally, personally, I am against using the word Jews.
өткен жылдары қазақ дәстүрлеріне арнап түсірген.
To one of our past programs dedicated to the traditions of the Kazakh people, someone left a comment on the internet in which they wrote that it was time to revise the traditions and remove everything irrelevant. Do you think that there are such traditions that are outdated and no longer needed? And which of them will never become outdated?
Bir ғана мысал келтірейін. Қазір той жасаймыз, иә? Bir тойға барсаң, алдымен тойды мәслихат шай деп шақырады.
I will give just one example. We Kazakhs celebrate toy. First, people invite to have a tea, where the details of the wedding are discussed. Then they invite guests to see of the bride. Then they celebrate the wedding itself. Further, the matchmakers invite each other. In this way, just one wedding consists of at least 4-5 events. This is already outdated. We need to change the format of the toys. When I ask why they are doing this, they answer me that this is a tradition. It turns out that matchmakers who come from the groom's side to the bride's house, or vice versa from the bride's side to the groom's house, they participate in all 4 celebrations. Here and there, it is supposed to treat matchmakers with a dish, Qazakh batyr. But this ceremony can be performed once, and at the wedding itself. It is not necessary to carry out separate toy for the sake of this. I'm not going to teach anyone here, but I think this is an unnecessary tradition. Next year will mark the 330th birth anniversary of Kabanbai batyr. And all those who want to participate in this holiday say, let's hold races, wrestling. Isn't it better to make a documentary about Karakerey Kabanbai batyr? We will shoot a movie, release books, an encyclopedia. And they gradually agree. Judge for yourself. We will invite 500 people. We will hold a memorial dinner. And it should be so. And if you hold races, invite the wrestlers, this will cost at least 50-60 million tenge. This is money down the drain. They fight and jump without us. Better to spend money on something good and necessary. There are children who were born and raised in independent Kazakhstan. They want to learn, but they cannot. Better send them to study in Moscow, for example. Say, this is your gift in honor of the 330th anniversary of Kabanbai batyr, and here's a scholarship for 5 years. Would you agree? Or in the mausoleum of Kabanbai batyr, one can build a prayer room, or a place where pilgrims can rest. These are just examples. Now I mean that the format of the toys is already outdated and we need to stop wasting. I have given just 2 examples. There are those who will support my idea and those who will not support it. I know. When I said that, they asked me why I count other people's money. My dear, well, there will be races, but there are rules. You need to prepare a place. This is the direct work of the Equestrian Federation. Then you two do not interfere in this matter. This is what I mean. My opinion is that there should be meaning in any business. By our deeds, we must leave a legacy, an example. Is that so? This is my opinion. There are outdated and incorrect traditions, and they need to be changed.
Менің ойым осы. Дәстүрдің озығы бар, тозығы бар дегенде айтылатын нәрсе осы.
Жалпы қазір
What is the task facing the Kazakh intelligentsia now?
Мынандай бір керемет нәрсе бар да. Мына екеуміздің жалпы бүгінгі зиялылардың Құдайдың берген бір керемет тартуы.
We live in a wonderful time when 2 centuries and 2 millennia have been replaced by one another. At the same time, we moved from a social political formation to a capitalist one. Our task now is to determine the future of our descendants. Our children will live on what we build today. As we raise our children today, so they will live.
Біз бүгін қалап беріп кеткен шаруамен осы балалар өмір сүреді. Біз бүгін балаларды қалай тәрбиелеп кетсек,
Various other currents have been added to our currents. All of them are very variegated, colorful and interesting. These songs are interesting and the culture is interesting. Our children began to absorb it all like a sponge. Our main task is to educate them with dignity amid these conditions. The Kazakhs have not yet lost their national mentality, their cultural code. Many countries have already lost their identity, but we keep it for now, and we must not lose what we now have.
Уақытыңызды бөліп бізге сұхбат бергеніңізге алғыс айтамыз. Алдағы жұмыстарыңызға.
Thank you for the interview. We wish you good luck.
Еңбегіңіз жана берсін.
Рахмет, көңілдеріне шығып жатсақ, көп-көп рахмет.
I will be glad if you like it. It is happiness to work for the Kazakh people, for independent Kazakhstan, and future generations.